I'd like to please call the meeting to order. Would you join me in the invocation, please? Dear Heavenly and grateful Father, we ask your blessings on this meeting this evening, as well as the blessings on Sandy Pines and the members here. We also thank you for the many blessings that you have bestowed on each and every one of us, giving us the privilege to be part of Sandy Pines. Please let your Holy Spirit work in us tonight as we have a lot of work in front of us, and that we share kind words, respect, and our actions. And you also grant us wisdom about our decisions, that they are in the best interest of Sandy Pines. We acknowledge ultimately that you are in control. We ask that you, God, bless America and bless Sandy Pines. And all the Sandy Piners join me in saying, Amen. Just wanted to let you know that tonight's board meeting is being videotaped. It is not on TV, but it will be available on the website and the YouTube option at the bottom of the page if you wish to view it later. We move on to the roll call by our secretary, Greta Pitcher.
When I announce your name, if you could please let us know the years that you've been to Sandy Pines, your site number, and any committees that you might chair or are a part of. Raj Grinwis.
Hi, I'm Raj Grinwis, and I've been here for 26 years, and I'm chair of the Long Range Planning Committee.
Mike Harding.
I'm Mike Harding, Site 393. I've been here since 2006.
Carolyn.
I'm Carolyn Nielsen, and wow, welcome. I'm so excited to see all the faces. I'm lot 803, that's phase 2, and this is my 7th year at Sandy Pines. But I've been familiar with Sandy Pines before the roads were paved, so I've been a member since 2010.
Could you share what committees you participate in?
Sorry, I'm on the Building, Grounds, and Maintenance Committee, and I'm also on the liaison for the Fall Committee.
Tim Hoffman.
Tim Hoffman, Site K485. This is my 5th summer out here. I am currently the chairman of the Finance Committee and also serve on the Safety and Security Committee.
Dennis King.
Hi, my name is Dennis King. I'm at lot 1076. I've had 20 years as a social member and 8 years as a regular member. I am on the Technology Committee, and I'm chair of the Safety and Security Committee.
I'm Greta Pitcher. I'm at Site 438. My family and I have been here for 24 years. I serve on the Long Range Planning Committee, and I also serve on the SORA Committee.
Good evening, I'm Marty DeVries. I'm your chairman of the board. I live on Site 164. I've been in the park since 2002. I participate as a member of the Long Range Planning Committee, and I chair the Policy Committee for Sandy Pines.
Doug Wills.
Hi. Is this on?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Doug Wills. I live at D44. I've been a member with my family since 2002. Hate to admit it, but I'm the chairman of the Rules Committee right now. Don't hurt me.
Okay, approval, and where'd you put that? Oh, good heavens. Oh, here it is. Oh, not yet.
No.
I got to approve the minutes.
Is everybody?
Yep. Oh, and Rob isn't here.
I'd like to make a motion to move the public comment to the beginning of the meeting.
Okay.
Due to the fact that we have a lot of important issues at hand right now, and I want to hear from the members before us as a board make a vote.
Did everyone hear that? Mike has made a motion to put the member comment a portion of the meeting up front. He placed a motion on the table. We need a second.
I second.
Okay, second. We need to have a roll call vote.
DeVries,
No?
Grinwis,
No.
Harding,
Yes.
Hoffman,
No.
King,
No.
Klein, not here, Nielsen,
No.
Hitchard,
Yes?
Wills,
Yes.
5-3,
5-3. We will move on to the approval of the minutes of May 19, 2017. And I place the motion to approve the minutes on the table of May 19, 2017. Raj seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes have been approved for May 19, 2017. Next is the approval of new park members, our secretary, Greta Pitcher.
In the month of May, we had 2 Sandy Pines sites sold, both in Phase 3, 48 transfers, and for sale by owner, 35 Sandy Pines listings sold. The transfers for sale by owner in Sandy Pines listings include the following: Phase 1, 10, Phase 2, 13, Phase 3, 10, Phase 4, 20, Phase 5, 24, and Phase 6, 5. We sold 1 condo. I make a motion to approve the new members.
I second.
All in favor to approve the new members, say aye. Any opposed? On to the reports of committees. I'll begin with the executive comments, and I welcome a nice large crowd here tonight. I thank you all for coming. Since our May Board of Directors meeting, we've had our first face-to-face meeting. It's a little bit different format than we've had in the past. It was held here in the pavilion, and I welcome each and every one of you to the face-to-face meeting tomorrow, also in the pavilion from 9 to 11. It keeps us out of the rain and the 90-degree heat, and we can hear everybody talk when we're in here, so it's a great thing. We will have I believe 3 other face-to-face meetings. They are typically the Saturday morning after the board meetings, with the exception of August, because that is the annual meeting and we vote on election that day. I believe the August meeting is on the 12th, August 12th. These face-to-face meetings are not specific to any phase. They're held in Phase 1 in this building, this pavilion, but it's any member invited, as it's always been, but we typically visited different phases with prior face-to-face meetings. So we had really good questions at the face-to-face meeting the Saturday after the last board meeting. A lot of great discussion, and I believe we had just a little over 30 people here. We also, just in the last couple of weeks, we've had board candidate petitions that have been circulating. Greta, the secretary of our board, and myself counted and validated all those signatures yesterday. And we have 6 candidate names that will be on the ballot in August, all validated with accurate numbers and required signatures. The next steps around the petition, the candidate petitions and their names on the ballot, they are able to campaign throughout the park. They were all notified yesterday with a letter that confirmed their certification as their name on the ballot. August 5, here in the pavilion, in the evening from 6 to 8:30, there will be a Meet the Candidate Forum. And I would invite all of you to come and meet the candidates, the 6 candidates. Hopefully no one will withdraw between now and next Tuesday. But those bios of each one of those candidates and their pictures are in the July issue of the Footprints. So you'll be able to read about their background, put the name with the face, become familiar with that, and then attend the Meet the Candidate Forum on August 5. I also want to thank a couple thousand members in this park for the hard work and the focus around the site cleanup this year. I have never seen this park look so good as since I have been here in 2002, and I want to publicly thank each and every one of you that did clean up your sites. You did a phenomenal job. There was a lot of hard work and effort. I also know that there are some that made absolutely no effort to clean their sites, and those deserve attention and the possible violation and a fine as we outlined in the rule. But thanks to each and every one of you that did clean your sites. The park looks phenomenal. Absolutely. We move on to the finance report from Tim Hoffman.
All right, Tim Hoffman here, Chair of the Finance Committee. And we've technically had 3 meetings since our last board meeting. The Finance Committee and the board were able to come together and have our end-of-year financial review with our accounting firm. So that's a good opportunity for the board to be able to, and the Finance Committee, to be able to see how the fiscal year ended, be able to have any notes from our accountants, as well as for us to be able to have an opportunity to ask questions on things. So that was a very good meeting. And then we were also able to meet with our investment firm to get our annual review of how our investment funds are doing. As you guys know, last meeting the board did pass the resolution moving the $1.1 million over to funding the CCs in phase 3. And so we're in good health with about 1.7 million in the investment account and about another $1.5 million in reserves. Then we were able to have our Finance Committee meeting on June 15. That was another good meeting, an opportunity to review the April financial statements for Sandy Pines Wilderness Trails as well as Lake Monterey Golf Course. And we have a really active committee this year. We have a lot of people who are asking very good questions. It is a very open time with the committee and with Jean and Kimberly who are there. So you guys should take comfort in that, knowing that members of the park serving on that committee and reviewing those statements. So tonight we would like to make a proposal to the board for approval of those April 2017 Lake Monterey Golf Course and Sandy Pines Wilderness Trails financial statements. If someone could make a motion on that. And a second. And a second. And all of those in favor? Aye. Aye. And all those opposed? All right. The committee is continuing to look at items like how we can approve financial statements faster in the winter, how we can have those financials available for the membership during the long off season. And as always, remind the membership that as those financials are approved, they are available on the Sandy Pines website under the member area. And that is all I have for tonight.
We move on. We'll move on to the Rules Committee. This is not working.
The Rules Committee has going under a few personnel changes, which we should have straightened out shortly. We are working on, as you probably noticed, parking problems in the park. Don't know really what the right answer is yet, but we're trying to figure it out. Storage seems to be another issue that's come up about the park. What you can have for storage, what you can't, where it can be, just another problem there. So we're tossing some things around, reference rules. We don't like to make a lot of rules, but they become necessary at some times, and that's why we're there to address it and then bring our ideas to the board, and then the board makes the final decision. So that's basically where we're at right now.
Thank you, Doug. On to long-range planning and that committee report from Raj Grinwis.
Good evening. Glad to see you all here tonight. We met this past Wednesday, and we are still, as a general group, discussing around retail space, facelift discussions around the retail area, and some trying to find some lease income that we can better the park by getting some other stuff going that we can maybe by moving some of the buildings maybe towards the road for we can do outside or whatever. The opportunity to allow space for maintenance expansion. And Park and Garden, that whole area, we're looking at some way to allocate that so we can get some more parking. And for our next meeting, each committee member is to bring in a list of at least maybe 10 or 12 articles that they'd like to see changed or added, or some way we can better the park. And we will prioritize those and analyze those, and we'll get back to you on that.
Thank you, Raj. Next is Building and Grounds from Carolyn Nielsen.
Hi, thank you. Building and Grounds and Lake Committee met Saturday morning, June 10th. There were 5 members present. We had an update by Jess Larson on the portable food trucks. Administration is moving ahead with this initiative. Pronto Pups have committed to 5 weekends. 3 additional companies are interested. This could mean additional revenue for the park and also added food choices for us and our guests. So that sounds good to me. Maybe we won't have to cook as often. So so look forward or look into future information. It should be.
I can't hardly hear Carolyn down here.
Closer.
Look, can you hear me? Look for information on the Sandy Pines website. Do you want me to restate what I stated about the, I see yes, okay. Okay. Jess Larson updated us on the portable food trucks. Administration is moving ahead with this initiative. Pronto Pups has committed to 5 weekends. 3 additional companies are also interested. This could mean added revenue for Sandy Pines and offer additional food choices for our members and their guests. Look for further information on the Sandy Pines website about the food trucks. I thought that was an excellent idea. Gene Van Couvering brought us. What happened? Oh. Because I felt like I was hollering. Okay, Gene Van Couvering brought us up to date about the selling of firewood. I don't know if anyone's noticed the firewood that's by the ranger station. Well, he gave us some statistics to show us the potential for profit. The committee felt it was a good way to use our park's trees that are some are being removed, cut down on the golf course around. So if you need firewood, it's cheap, just $4 for a bundle. So, in fact, we used some last night and it burns wonderfully. Make sure it's the dry wood. So, anyway, it was noted that CC2 in Phase 1 still needs some tender love and care. Over the past few years, Nelson and the volunteers from the Garden Club have worked to beautify and maintain the landscaping around the CC buildings. New fences were put up, walkways, sprinkling systems, planning, etc. have been put into place. So hopefully you have noticed how great they look. And I really want to thank Nelson and the Garden Club. That's a volunteer committee, and they're over there weeding all the time. And so stop and tell them how beautiful everything looks. I sure do. So anyway, the Building Grounds and Lake Committee designation of terms was discussed, but not implemented due to the fact that we need 2 additional members so we can implement the rotation. We can talk to Kathy to get some application forms. So if you're interested in being on a committee, the process is see Kathy. Actually, I believe Kelvin, you have some also that you can fill out, give them to Kathy and the administration in whatever committee you want to serve on. I'm sure that they would be happy. We're still looking for 2 more members on the Building, Grounds, and Lake Committee. Jess Larson mentioned a possible puppy parade. He's a dog lover. He would get with Mary Applehoff for consideration. Any proceeds generated would go to the Allegan Animal Shelter. So if you're a puppy lover, and we'll have to talk with Mary Appleby and Jess Larson. Anyway, trimming of the Sandy Pines bushes, you know, the ones that spell out Sandy Pines, they're the ones located across from the Earth Dam. Well, 4 or 5 years ago, we had a group that went in there and we just trimmed the heck out of them. And actually, they looked very good. But Bert Bachheisen suggested that they be trimmed every year after the spring growth, so that would be now. And just let the clippings drop, because if you do it every year, you don't have great big long pieces of wood that have to be carried away. So we're hoping that we can talk to the Grounds Committee and get those bushes trimmed, because I think, personally, I think they're an asset to the park. I know you have to be in an airplane really to see them, but you can see them from the road. You really can. They've been there since day one, I understand. Yeah, so anyway. I would like to thank the Building, Grounds, and Lake Committee for all their time and their commitment that they have to this park. Thank you.
I'll hand this right back to you for a report from the Golf Course Committee.
Unfortunately, there is no report. The Golf Committee, our chairman, he sold his place here, and there was no one to take over, so hopefully we'll get together and we'll have a Golf Committee report next month. Sorry.
And Carolyn, I believe you need members on that committee as well, the Golf Course Committee. So again, if you're interested, fill out one of the committee interest forms if you'd like to serve on the Building and Grounds and the Golf Course Committee. Or any other committee. Most of them are full, but there are some that still need additional members. So we are on to technology. I'm not sure. Dennis King?
I got a plan B.
Bob Powers was expected to be here, the chair, but he is absent, so we'll pass the mic to Dennis.
Thank goodness for technology and electronics nowadays. I can read the minutes now. The Technology Committee met on the 9th of this month, and there was some priorities that they wanted to get listed, and they narrowed them down to 3 items that were chosen by the members, and some of the members volunteered to implement these 3. Number 1 was cable connection to the CCs. This will enable electronic bulletin boards, environmental monitoring, NOAA radios, and other types of communications to be implemented. And the volunteers will be calling Charter to get a quote and timeline on running cable connection to all of the 13 CCs, as well as a price for a monthly fee. The second priority is to find ways to help reduce time spent by member services assisting members on technology-related questions. This can be done by having Technology Committee members volunteer to help members with technology issues. It is felt that non-committee members could also volunteer to do this, and a suggestion was made for a form to be available on the website for non-committee volunteers. And the third priority is to purchase new cameras for the park. The cameras are old and upgrade as needed. Camera features should include infrared and tilt and zoom at the least. And there are volunteers to get pricing, and more information will follow on that. And then Steve Dorman updated us on the RAVE, the Emergency Alert System. It's set to go live soon. Templates are in. And Kim will explain how on the web access works with the club Profit and FileMaker, sharing data, and how RAVE uses the data from the FileMaker. And it's emphasized that members will verify that their data is correct and can get emergency alert messages via email or text. And I remember one of the comments Steve had made was that when they got into some of the files, that some of the information they got is old. And so if it's been a while since you upgraded your files here at Sandy Pines, you might want to get hold of the office and make sure everything's upgraded, especially on phone numbers. If something should happen to your site and the ranger finds something, he's got to be able to make a contact to let you know there's a problem. So that's all I have with the technology.
Do we just go to the office and do that? To obtain that?
To update it? Yeah, either or call them.
Call them or-
Yep.
Go right to the website. There's a portal on the website that allows you to do that.
Yeah, just go to the website. There's a portal that you can go to. You want me just to continue to safety and security?
Not yet.
Okay.
I know you're anxious, but... Next on the agenda is the policy update. Currently, there are no members on the policy committee. We are looking for 5 to 6 members actual members to be on the policy committee. I am chairing that committee, and I would put out the request tonight for any interested members that could work with me to review policies that are currently in place, which are far and few between, but also a list of new policies that I've been working on over the winter and up until a couple of weeks ago. We have the interest application that can be submitted if you're interested in working on those policies with me. Jean asked me last year to assist him in the development of some policies for the park, and we currently have a limited number of policies in the park. So please allow me a couple seconds to provide the overview of the policies that I've been working on. And when you hear some of these policies, you'll know that they are desperately needed in our park, and would like anyone who has any policy history or experience working on policies to please consider being on the committee with me. The policy update draft as of June 17th, we have a policy needed called Code of Conduct. It is about what the purpose of a Code of Conduct policy is, who it pertains to, and the management responsibilities around a Code of Conduct for Sandy Pines. It includes items like avoiding conflict of interest, gifts, gratuities, and entertainment, and how those are handled amongst employees. Any kickbacks or bribery with the staff, any protecting company assets. That would be a policy around the organizationally owned vehicles, all the electronic mail and the information that is housed in that, all the furnishings in all of our buildings and around the park, internet access, postage, property and facilities, information and supplies, and time usage of the employees. The second policy is called Safeguarding Confidential and Proprietary Information. We currently do not have a policy at Sandy Pines to safeguard our confidential and proprietary information. The third policy is called Restricted Access to Personal Accounts. We have Sandy Pines employees that are also members in the park, and I feel that there is a need to protect their personal information so that all employees do not have access to their personal information. A big one is internal controls. We do have an accounting firm, Bean Garter, that works with Sandy Pines in an annual review status. They have also helped Kimberly and Jean over the course of the last couple of years around internal controls. They are very basic in nature, but there are several internal control policies that are necessary. And it is about the separation of duties, so one person handling money isn't the only person handling money. We need dual controls. There's access controls for the keys to Sandy Pines, all the security alarm, security codes, and the safe combinations throughout the park. Physical audits, documentation, trial balances, the reconciliation of our accounts, the approval authority levels, control activity expectations with an activity log that shows who, where, what, and how happens with all of the internal controls. safeguarding the supplies that are here at Sandy Pines, a payment acceptance guideline, how we handle and coordinate deposits, and any other cash equivalent inventory that could be any type of tickets, gift cards, and those sort of things. The next policy is called using technology properly and appropriately. The next one is preventing and detecting fraud, responding to audits, exams, and investigations. We need a record retention and disposal policy. We do have someone that oversees that currently, but we do not have a written policy about how long we keep records, why we keep them for certain periods of time, and we need a chart to show what documents are valuable, how long we keep them, and when do we destroy them, and then a disposal policy around that. We also, I'm working on the request for a proposal, which is, in most minds is called an RFP process, and that is an actual process when we request bids, we request a proposal for buildings, for any work, major work that needs to be done at Sandy Pines. And last is an investment policy. We do have an investment firm, Schwab, that works with us. We, like Tim Hoffman noted too, we all met with them along with Bean Garter, our accounting firm. And we have asked both Bean Garter, our accounting firm, and Schwab to look at our policies before we bring them to the board for approval. Those are the policies that I've been working on, and again, I would ask if you're interested in helping me move these forward to protect our assets and our financials here at Sandy Pines. I welcome you to the committee. Thank you. Back to safety and security. Dennis King.
I'm Dennis King, and I'm the chair of the Safety and Security Advisory Committee. We had a meeting on the 16th of June, and we brought up some of the topics from last year's things that we were doing, and one of them was discussing the controlling the entry to the chapel when the chapel is in service, especially in the morning, and then when they go to the Vespers at night. That we can get a lot of people in there, and some people come in the morning and then they stay throughout the park and are not invited guests. So I understand this year now that the chapel, and if some of you have been at some services, yeah, you've heard it mentioned that there are guest passes at a table outside the pavilion there, and that recommend that you get passes for your guest so that they can put something on the windshield of the car so that the rangers will know that they are welcome here and are supposed to be here. You also will notice that we talked about maybe having a ranger at the gates when they open them up, and there is now a ranger, if you noticed. They're observing the entrance to the people coming into the service. Our committee also continues to observe safety and security assessments throughout the park on a daily basis, and we collect the information, and some things, if there seem to be a priority, we'll pass them on to the rangers. Otherwise, we'll bring them to our meetings and discuss and see what's the proper way to implement them. One of the things we have looked into was with the playground. There were some assessments done last year, and some new items have been purchased. And I think that there's some kind of a rubber mulch that has been obtained, and it's going to be placed under some of the areas where our children play and have a tendency to maybe to fall off or something, so they don't hurt themselves. Right now, it's just a matter of getting the boundaries put in to hold the mulch in place so it doesn't get spread out through the playground area. And a study is currently being conducted regarding keeping uninvited guests entering the water park and pool areas. So there still is discussion being held on how we're going to be able to regulate that and make sure it's just our children and guests that are using the park. And so that is something that we've been discussing now for the last couple of meetings. And we also invite anybody that's interested in joining the Safety and Security Advisory Committee by all means fill in the application and hand it to the office, and then they'll pass it on to me, and we'll see about getting you on the committee. Thank you.
Again, thank you all for coming tonight. I've just got a couple of notes, not so much a report. Mary Applehoff, as many of you know, is the administrator of, or the director of recreation here. About a month ago, she came in and let me know that she was going to be leaving after this year. This would be her last year. That being said, she's been a great asset here, and she has worked so hard. She's like the ever-ready bunny when you see her in the summertime. She just continually goes and goes and goes, and we've appreciated her efforts. We are, however, looking for someone to replace her, actually work with her. Would like to find someone by the middle of July. So if you know of anyone that would fit the bill for such a job as that, and it takes a lot of passion, and a lot of creativity, and a good management style, and send them over to the office and get an application, and they can get that in. So I'd appreciate that. Just want to mention the food trucks that have already been mentioned here once, to let you know which ones are coming. I don't have the dates in front of me, but there's several weekends that there will be trucks here. And we're limiting it to 2 trucks, no more than 2 trucks per weekend. They will always be located where the steps went up to the indoor pool building. There's a kind of a causeway there, and they'll be at the head of that causeway. So the ones that we have coming, Prano Pup will be there tomorrow, and he was here last week or 2 weeks ago, and he sells corn dogs and burgers and a few other things. Tomorrow also, I believe it's tomorrow, a truck by the name of the Maine Dish. Maine is spelled M-A-I-N-E, as in East Coast Maine, and it's seafood. So if you're interested in seafood, that would be a good truck to visit. Another one that are coming this summer is called Pizza Parliament. They have pizza and breadsticks. And then another one is Porter's Smokehouse, and that's a barbecue pit. So again, watch your website, watch the footprints, and the Facebook page, the post, we'll post who's going to be where, or who's going to be there, the times that they're going to be there, and the dates. So I also want to say thank you to all the committees that are active, that have several dozen members on them, and everything that gets vetted, gets to the board, gets vetted through these committees, and they do a lot of work, pre-work and research work in those committees, and I appreciate what they do, because without them, we wouldn't be where we are today with a lot of the advances that have taken care of. One other thing is that we touched a little bit on the technology and some of the policies that are coming by, getting developed, and I appreciate getting us caught up on that, because the policy book is really an owner's manual how to run the park, and we've not had one. My policy manual coming here was Dawn Arndt, and she did a great job, but I do believe that it's time we get these on paper. We've had a policy committee before that did a number of them, and it was a good start, but now we need to press on with it. So I'm anxious to see that mature. And then one last thing that I would mention is that when we talk about things that we need to manage that we don't see, one of those items are ransomware protection, cyber security. And so we've contracted with our IT company to research our system, go through the whole system, looking for things that are already there, and then they are going to be doing testing over the next 6 months and try and breach our system through our employees. So to see how on the ball we are with watching what's coming through our email boxes, which you should do personally. I've already had one, and Kimberly's had one that was unrelated to the contractual agreement we had, and so we know that it's happening. It's happening with quite frequency now, that they'll capture your data, and you won't be able to get in until you pay them, and we certainly don't want that to happen. A little about then then I'm done. But I saw Kimberly going like this a while ago when we were talking about the update of the data, of your data, your personal information on the website. Would you like to speak to that?
I just want to make members.
Yeah, that works.
Thank you. I heard a couple comments or questions about how you can update your data or even check your data, and I strongly recommend you do that. If you've logged into, or I recommend you even just, if you haven't logged into Member Web Access, log in, and there are 3 new tabs on there. The first tab is all of your member account information. Your address, it's your winter address, your summer address, and your phone number, and it's all in your hands to keep that updated. It will help with the service up at the front desk at member service, so they don't get bogged down with some of those requests. So when you do need them for other needs, they can serve those, but you can go right on there, log into Member Web Access and update it. And then it's very important that you change your address at the winter time so that you can have your bills sent to the correct address off season and during the season. So we rely on our members with how many members we have to make sure that they are sent out appropriately. There also is a link to your online billing, so you can get to your online billing, and rather than going into the separate Club Profit portal that you did last year, you can actually get right to that website without a separate login, right through Member Web Access too. So I just wanted, as members, you to know it is in your hands and you can check that all out. So, but if you do have questions beyond that, let us know. Thank you, Jean.
Thank you, Kimberly. Jean, do you have additional comments?
No, I've got a report on the inspections.
Okay, that would be great.
I forgot to mention it, but just an update, the site inspections have gone very well this week, and right now we are finished with phase 1, 2, 4, and 5. There have been 10 violations written for unsightly and or dirty units. 2 of the violations were for golf cart, inoperable golf carts, which is also part of that rule. And the rest of them were warnings and or a clear bill of health. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Jean. We're on to the old business item on the agenda, and I'm going to introduce the resolution number 062317B, which is a resolution to amend the wording of site cleanup rule. The specific change, as it reads today, says notification of the violation and copies of these documents will be mailed to the member per the address in the Sandy Pines Wilderness Trail membership records. We are proposing to change that verbiage to read, notice of the violation and copies of these documents will be provided to the member per your contact information in the Sandy Pines Wilderness Trail member records. The preferences can include either mail, U.S. mail, email, or the alert process when that's made available. I move to place this motion on the table and look for a second. Carolyn Nielsen, second. And open for discussion.
I don't know if this goes under discussion or after the discussion of the vote, but I would like to make a motion to amend the amendment. And I'd like to add the word excessive to replace no. So we're in the checklist, so where it says no dirt or no leaves, or no sticks. I'd like to add the word excessive and have a definition of excessive to be: excessive is defined as items identified in the checklist that are visible from a reasonable distance, i.e. the road or pathway. This does not preclude the site inspector from on-site inspections if deemed necessary. So I don't know what proper protocol is, but I would like to make that amendment.
Any other discussion before a vote with Mike's amendment to this motion? Tim has some comments.
I just wanted to say quickly, I think the board definitely listened to feedback and stuff from the membership this week and over the last couple of weeks. And we appreciate all of the feedback that did come in through the various channels. And also appreciate the work that Gene and the inspectors and everything did to try to make modifications to that process and to make sure that we're doing things to the best of everyone's abilities. And, you know, as part of that is where we're putting something forward like the notification process today. And I also just wanted to say that was kind of the reason for me of not supporting the proposal at the beginning of the meeting for having the member comments first. I think this board worked really hard and had a lot of good information to present tonight. And then we look forward to the comments from the members afterwards.
Thank you, Tim.
In continuation of the discussion, I think that Mike's idea is a good one. I think that there are going to be other tweaks to this rule. Many of the detailed items potentially relooked at or eliminated. I prefer, in my opinion, to finish the season now that we have gotten through the June 10 initial inspection. The process has been addressed. We've addressed issues. We have worked with the inspector and an assistant inspector to fine-tune the approach. And I believe that rather than coming back 2 and 3 and 4 times to change a rule where everyone has to try to follow all of those changes, my recommendation is to, in my opinion only, is to wait until the end of the season, again in maybe perhaps September, when we get through the process. We talk to the inspectors, we talk to Gene, and we make all of the changes in this rule at one given time to avoid confusion with the members. That's just my opinion. Any other comments?
I've been with this rule since its inception. The rule wasn't designed to be a punishment to anyone. It was to make an improvement to the park, that the folks would be aware that we do have a problem with some sites. And as I wrote in March, 90+% are not a problem and did a great job. But there's always some that you have to address. And there wasn't a choice. So we tried to put together something, and it's a learning experience for us. We try to get things perfect, and on the other hand, we want to get you all riled up. So we look for some neutral ground to accomplish our goal, and I think we're on the way to getting it done. And the board did do a great job, my committee did, and between the two, I think we came out good. To say we're perfect, no, we're not perfect, but we sure tried, and we're going to keep on trying. I just want to let you know that.
So Marty, procedurally, well, first let me make a comment. I believe it's our responsibility, regardless who the park inspector is, who the park president is, to put forth rules that are clear so that administration can be successful, so the board can be successful, and so that it can be clear to the members. Adding the word excessive, in my mind, makes it a little more clear and takes out some of the ambiguity between what had happened in the previous weeks. Regardless, I'm asking what the proper protocol is on this, because are these separate motions that are on the table then?
Yes.
One? Okay.
Yeah, they would be.
Thank you.
We would vote on your motion first because it was an amendment to the original resolution. Is there any further discussion, or are we ready to vote on Mike's amendment to the checklist?
You know, Mike, I appreciate, I guess I will call it the tweaking, but I think there is more tweaking to be done. And I would like to see us finish out the season and then really review it, whether it be excessive, unsightly. You know, I think we need to look more into that different amendment. And I just think that we should wait on it.
If a rule is not amended at this point, the inspectors will operate under the current wording and the current rule, so you have no protection. And this, I think, is an important tweak. I'm going to support that, but
Any additional comments from the board members, or should we proceed to the vote on Mike's motion to amend the checklist to excessive? Tim, comments?
I just want to say that I do appreciate Mike bringing this amendment to the table, and I would urge the board to consider this amendment. I think that this really does address that concern and that fear that is out there today. And I think Mike brings a good definition of what excessive is.
So my question is, will we then tweak it again later? Okay, so we're, all right. So we were just trying to get away from the ambiguity of excessive, but it was a good definition of excessive. And when we said no mold, no, that, I understand, because we washed our house 2 months ago when we got here, and I have mold back. So I appreciate it, Mike, and if we can tweak this and then tweak it again, I'm all for it. Thank you.
Any additional comment, or are we ready to vote? The vote would be on Mike's motion to amend the checklist to read excessive. He'll submit the language to you, because I've already received it, so. Kathy, could you do a roll call vote for us?
Hoffman? Yes. King? Nielsen? Yes. Pitcher? Yes. Wills? Yes. DeVries?
Yes.
Grinwis? Yes. Harding?
Yes.
Okay. We are back to the original motion called to amend the wording on the site cleanup rule about notification to the members. Is there any additional comments before we vote on that subject? No additional comments? They're not open to the floor. This is a board meeting at this time. Kathy, roll call?
DeVries?
Yes.
Grinwis? Yes. Harding?
Yes.
Hoffman?
Yes.
King? Nielsen? Yes. Pitcher? Yes. Wills?
Yes.
That resolution 062317B is approved and passed. The next item on the agenda is the Ranger Department Restructure Plan. I'm reading resolution number 062317C. This is a resolution to propose to adopt and implement the Ranger Department Operational Restructure Plan and the Security Operation and Emergency Plan. Whereas the bylaws of Sandy Pines Wilderness Trails Incorporated, Article 13, Article 8, Section 6A gives the Board of Directors the power to direct the management and affairs of Sandy Pines. Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of Sandy Pines Wilderness Trails Incorporated does hereby approve the proposal to adopt and implement the Ranger Department Operational Restructure Plan and the Security Operation and Emergency Plan to include the use of force policy elements as presented, with the exception of firearms, which will be reviewed and reconsidered in 12 months. Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of Sandy Pines Wilderness Trails does hereby approve this resolution. I place the motion on the table and look for a second. Dennis King, second. and open for discussion. I'll begin by telling you that where we were last September 16 of 2016, I commented at the board meeting. We asked the administration to re-examine and make sense of the member expectations with regards to the safety and security of our park. We then agreed to move forward and charge Jean Vancouvering, our park president, to provide different options. One specifically around a combined safety and security team, perhaps another option that separates a safety and rules enforcement team from a security team. These options could include a realignment of staff, associated budgets with each option, and the benefits of the various options. And now, our park president has presented to the board just this past Monday a Ranger Department restructure plan, a roadmap to transition the department personnel, an organizational chart, and a security operation and emergency plan and policy to include both security and emergency medical coverage for our park. He used both law enforcement and legal counsel as resources in the development of this plan, and he presented it to the board, as I said, this past Monday. There were several issues raised in the planning meeting. An opinion and feedback from our Sandy Pines attorney was sought out regarding those issues. All board members have received copies of those legal counsel opinions. I fully support the plan. It's just Marty DeVries speaking, in my opinion, as outlined in the resolution, and I just read in the need for the plan and the policy. I will share that Sandy Pines should be concerned and remain concerned if a safety and security plan or policy is not implemented. I would hate to imagine if a serious scenario did occur at Sandy Pines that a proposed plan or policy could have prevented or otherwise limited any threat. The board would have failed this park and its membership by not implementing some type of plan or policy to protect this corporation. So in this resolution, I personally support the language that would implement the use of force, and let me share that with you. It says the staff to give priority to de-escalation techniques. That's using your mouth to talk down a situation. If that is not effective, self-defense spray. And if and when necessary, a device called a taser. It would exclude firearms in our resolution, or a pistol, the portion of that policy at this time. As outlined in the resolution language, in 12 months, we would review and reconsider the needs around firearms, but at this time, we move forward with a plan that allows the current security staff to defend themselves in serious situations with tools other than a firearm and a pistol. The policy language includes verbiage around the preference for use of force is to de-escalate the situation so that no use of force is necessary. That would be the priority. As outlined in this policy, only certain employees would be properly trained and equipped to utilize the amount of force that is reasonable considering the circumstances that they're facing in order to provide a safe and secure environment for Sandy Pines members, the employees, and the registered guests. I believe that with the restructure Jean has presented, we will find ourselves with a very well-trained, qualified, experienced staff, and the members will witness and feel the benefits of this change that was definitely needed and what the members deserve. Now, have we considered an alternative plan? Another option, as a board member, I have considered a separate entity for safety and security at Sandy Pines, a standalone entity that would not be employees of Sandy Pines. We sought a legal opinion about that. Legal counsel provided an opinion, some factual data for us to review, and another opinion. He did not provide any direction for us or make a decision for us. A separate entity would require separate insurance costs. We may or may not own that entity. In my opinion, and only Marty DeVries' opinion at this point, I believe that there are downsides in doing that. We lose control of the business of our safety and security team. We actually get what we pay for when we contract that out. You lose the community connection between the contracted safety and security personnel and all of us as members. Where we may believe liability would be separate, it may appear that way. However, if our intent was to separate and have a standalone security function for that reason only, to avoid liability, the liability still remains under the veil of Sandy Pines. Based on my 40-year career, I personally witnessed the downsides to contracted security in some of our branch office locations where I worked at AAA Michigan. The contracted security personnel did not work for the leadership of our company. You cannot ask them or tell them to do anything different. But rather their employer they worked for and their contracted standards that they were agreed upon. In particular, branch office, the personnel could potentially be faced, just like we could be here at Sandy Pines, with a new security face each and every week, which would give members a feeling of uncertainty about the demeanor and the skills that then could be perceived to be lacking. We were faced then with security company staffing issues, which potentially could affect Sandy Pines and the number of people that were contracted here, and the individual preference issues of the contracted security personnel, their performance evaluations. The cost of a single fully trained security person in my workplace was $70,000 because you pay the employee who is the security person and you pay the company so that they can make a profit. I'm not sure I would want that expense for multiple security people here at Sandy Pines passed on to me as a member. In my opinion, we would lose control of what is best for the members and for this park. Additionally, our recent survey that was taken by many, many members, 900 plus over the course of the off-season, around safety and security indicated that one of the most critical needs in our members' eyes was that of a trained personnel available and willing to deal with medical situations and emergency medical needs. Contracted security personnel would not bring that element to our park. The plan before us tonight that Jean proposed allowed for the organizational structure to include that valuable service, emergency medical services, and that would be available to our members through his proposed plan. I open it up for additional discussion from the board.
My floor? All right, this is a very emotional and controversial topic right now in this park, and within this board. We had a lot of discussion over the past week about this. We've had a lot of discussion about the powers of the board and what rights do the board have over policies, and I still think that's open for debate. And the handbook clearly states that the board does have the right and has the authority over policies, and that's what we abide by. But there is a loophole in the bylaws. It's silent to who has the power of policies. So it's still an open discussion right now. And I say that because with this policy, you elected us to govern this park and have the checks and balances in place to make sure that the park operates within the policies in the park. What was brought forth to us in this policy, a lot of work went into it. And Jean, thank you for the work that you put in, Mel. But I still feel that it would be irresponsible for us as a board to go forward with this policy as it stands today. I also agree with Marty. This park needs a policy in place. This is not the right policy. A use of force policy has an underlying statement there that insinuates that we're going to use force. It's subtle, but it's in my mind very critical a part of this. There could easily be a policy in place that says we are not going to send our rangers in harm's way. We're going to try to secure the area. Our rangers will not carry guns, and that will take care of the liability. To this day, now granted, this is my first year on the board, to this day I still do not know the liability behind our guards carrying tasers and pepper spray. Somebody goes into this park and heaven forbid our rangers have to use pepper spray or a taser on somebody and they get hurt. Who's liable for that? So if we have that answer now, I'd like to hear that. Also, this plan has a large component of financial responsibility. There's a restructuring that goes on. And I do not have the number of what that restructuring is. As a board, it is our responsibility to make sure that the policies, the members, the staff are safe, and that we keep this park financially safe, and that we do not take on more liability. So I plead to my fellow board members to vote no on this tonight, and if this gets voted down, then I plead to our park president to put a policy in place, a stopgap, until we get this resolved. In my mind, the members have already voted. Whether or not that language was written in the way that was intended to write, to give the powers of the board, members went into that vote. The members that I've talked to went into that vote thinking they were voting guns down. And here as a board, we have to look at these members in the face, and if we're going to go against their vote tonight, that's a problem.
I would comment, Mike, that we have all received a proposed budget that includes the restructure plan. We received that at the May board meeting. I do believe that the language in the policy says the appropriate use of force depends on the totality of the situation, so that no use of force is necessary. I do believe that we have employees who are put in harm's way in multiple situations in this park. We have a response time issue from the Allegan County Sheriff. I am not for the firearms in this policy, and that's why I wrote the resolution to exclude the firearms, but allow the employees to have some means of self-defense if they are ever involved in a situation. I would also add that when I look at a restructure plan and you fill those boxes with qualified personnel who have come with some form of a requirement of expertise in law enforcement or like-kind quality, that I would trust that the hiring practices with a new leader in security, we would fill those boxes with trained, qualified people and perhaps never need a firearm in this park or in this policy.
I'm going to speak of 20 years of law enforcement experience in the field. And in most cases, deadly force, which is a pistol, a firearm, and by Michigan law, a taser also requires a concealed weapons permit. It's a very dangerous weapon also. So if you're going to use that piece of equipment, you better be right. You better hope the guy doesn't have a pacemaker, because you might have a problem. And you don't want to hit the wrong person. And that brings in the liability part of this, which I don't want to experience. It's kind of an unknown, but I don't think we could afford an accident or a wrong decision. And I'll tell you something else. I don't know if we're talking about terrorist attacks. It seems like we're talking about some massive thing happening. A lot of stuff, domestic problems that we went to. Normally at nighttime, alcohol was involved in almost every one of them, and any violence. And there's a word amongst police officers, you can't reason with a drunk, and you can't. I'll tell you from experience, but we're talking about talking people down. You don't talk a drunk down. That's not reality. You're fooling yourself. Are we going to send these men to harm's way? It sounds to me like we're trying to have a form of a police department that has no arrest power. If they go in, they get in a fight, taser or otherwise, whatever, the response time, the statistics are showing right now, are over an average of 30 minutes to get a real police officer here. I don't think it's been looked at to have a contract of a real police officer here, especially like on weekends or something, professional help. And a police officer can get more help immediately. You don't keep dialing up a phone. He picks up a mic and bang, it'll be state. He can get anybody around, because they do have programs where police departments assist other police departments. And I think we need to look more in that direction than building a security force in here. Like I said, there may be some costs built in, but I have not seen any numbers that breaks down that specific program, what it's going to cost for wages, for equipment, or any of the rest. It's an unknown, and I'd like to see it. I haven't seen it, and I'm definitely afraid of what the liability factor is if we do this. If we have something happen and we don't hurt somebody with one of our officers, I see the liability as lessened, because if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. You see it in the news every day. these lone wolf guys and everything, there is no defense for it. All of our top intelligence people, FBI, CIA, they all say the same thing. You cannot guard against this problem. You're going to be reactive. Proactive does not stop those kinds of people. So I think we need to think about that before we go ahead with this. I'm going to vote against it when it comes to the vote tonight.
Go ahead, Tim.
I have to say I'm very disappointed in some of the comments I've heard so far, unfortunately, from fellow board members. We've looked at this for a long time. I've been on the Safety and Security Committee. We polled the membership. We had the vote last year amongst the membership. And I think this board has continued to honor the will of the membership in everything that we have done. We have our own insurance company coming to us asking how we're going to protect our rangers. We have our own legal counsel advising us how dangerous of a position we are in currently without having a policy around how we protect our rangers and what our security plans are. And the board gave some direction to Gene, and I think Gene did a very good job of working on that. The plan that is in front of us here has been fully vetted through our insurance companies, through our attorneys, through police, through all sorts of agencies. And our own membership said in the survey that the rangers are a very important aspect here in the park. And our rangers enter into dangerous situations several times a year in this park that they have no protection against. And what I'm hearing is people saying that they don't want the rangers responding. That when we get a call at the ranger station, that the only response is hang up the phone, call 911, and wait 30 or 45 minutes. And I don't think that's what we want in this park. We've looked at the other alternatives. We've looked at bringing a police officer or hiring outside security, and that would be extremely more expensive than any proposal that is on the table today. So I am fully in support of this plan. I really appreciate the proposal that Marty put together here. I really appreciate the work that Gene has put into this. And I think everything that the membership and the surveys and things have come together is addressed in this plan.
Also being on the Safety and Security Committee in the last couple of years, we've been going over this issue, and I've heard some of the members complain that they didn't like the way the security was, didn't like the way they looked, and now we have a plan that's changing all that. And I hate to trump Doug, but I've been in law enforcement 34 years. I've been up against the drunk, the one that has a medical problem that has been threatening. I've never had to pull my gun to shoot anybody in that 34 years, but the training is there. I use whatever is necessary to neutralize the system. Exactly what the Rangers are being trained today, and they're being trained by a qualified instructor from the Sheriff Department. And as Tim said, we could go to the Sheriff Department and ask them to start patrolling over here. Well, just like he said, it's going to be astronomical what it's going to cost. So that's going to be more assessments. So I agree with the program that's been presented. It's been vetted. It's been put together by several different areas of law enforcement. It will provide a much better safety for the members of this park. There's nothing in there that says we're going to be voting for guns. It's gone. It's out of there. Mace, that's mace. That's tear gas. It affects your eyes, makes you cry, you can't see. That's just a tool that the law enforcement use to disable the aggressor. Tasers. Never had to use a taser, but everybody is trained on it, has to be tasered. You allow the young people to drive those golf carts out there at 10, 15 miles an hour Has anybody thought what's going to happen if a child darts in front of it? We're talking about safety for everybody here. At night when you're sleeping, when you're gone, who's going to watch your property? I'm in favor of this program. We've upgraded it. It's been upgraded, and the training is more intensified. They get more training than what a law enforcement officer gets. I only got 289, and then I was put on the street. That was back about, like I said, 34 years ago. And got training every couple of months, every year. I had to go through updates. I can't tell you how many hours I spent with seminars and training and updates. And it was by the FBI, it's by the DAQ, it's been by all different agencies. Same thing, what's going to happen is happening with our rangers. It's a benefit that we need. We need an upgrade. You're going to see different things. There are going to be different people. And so I'm voting for the program because I believe it's a necessity that we need this. Thank you.
Well, I haven't got any law experience. I never was an officer. But we, as a board, came to Gene and charged him with coming up with a program that would be the best for everybody in this park. And this man has worked diligently for a couple years on this thing. We've gone through, he has gone through many, many hours of meetings with law enforcement people, our attorneys, anybody that he needed to talk to put this thing through. He put in a lot of time. And if we have got rangers and they are to do a job, you have to give them the equipment to do the job. This thing, from what I can see, we charged Gene with giving us a policy, and he come up with a fantastic program. If you read it, you read every word of it. I read it twice because I wanted to make sure that it was going to be right. And I'm going to vote for it because I think it is the best thing for the people of this park and for our kids.
I would just like to ditto the two men and the one person actually sitting beside me. I really was in on this from the beginning because it's my third year on the board, and Gene presented this, and I voiced to Gene right away how I was not for firearms. The program, yes, it started out, it's been tweaked, it's been looked at for over 2 years now with council, with unbelievable. It's a big plan, and it goes in detail, and I am all for the plan. I'm all for the rangers having, the defense, not a gun. I've never been for the gun, and we listen to the people, and that's what we heard from the people. Okay, we want some protection for the rangers, but we don't want firearms. And this is exactly what this new resolution would be involved in. And it has been gone over for over 2 years, 2.5 years. And it's been tweaked, and I am in favor of it.
Any additional comment?
I don't really know what's going on here because last year there was a vote here and nobody's talking about it. We're talking about a survey that we just had recently. What?
We're talking about a resolution to pass.
Doug has the floor right now.
This is discussion, Marty, and this is discussion. And the point I want to make, there's been a survey pointed out, but we also had a vote last year in August, and the big thing that most members that I talked to didn't want guns. And it was beat resoundingly, not by a little bit, it got killed. Sure it did. Do you have the number there? Give it to us, please.
The actual document says special election on August 20th, proposal to approve an employee firearms policy. Whereas the Board of Directors of Sandy Pines Wilderness Trails have approved a special election to approve an employee firearms policy. Sandy Pines special election ballot, August 20, proposal to approve an employee firearms policy for all trained and approved employees. Shall the membership approve an employee firearms policy for all trained and approved employees, which will allow the trained and approved employees of Sandy Pines Wilderness Trails to carry a firearm beginning effective immediately for self-protection and the protection of any individual or individuals staying or visiting at Sandy Pines in the event of an occurrence where an individual or individuals causes a threat where grave bodily injury is imminent. There were 589 votes against the proposal to approve a policy, and there were 420 that said yes, they wanted an employee-approved policy.
I would consider that pretty clear. And the perception, I think, of that proposal was they didn't want rangers with guns, even though we were talking about a policy. I understand that. But the perception was guns. People didn't want the guns. It's like, I don't come out here, if I wanted to be around police and with guns and stuff, I'd just stay home. I come out here to have a good time, and I don't want to feel like I'm in a city, even though it is basically a city with all the population that we have. And still the liability is bothering me, and the taser thing is bugging me. And you know what? You'd think I'd be on the other side of the fence, being former law enforcement. And I'll be honest with you, I voted for that thing last year, but since I've researched it and got into it, I've gone the other way. I'm against it now, but I didn't know all I know now.
As you can see, this is a good, what you're seeing today is healthy of a board. And it's good that we're having this debate, because this is a very important issue. Regardless of what side of the fence we're on, we both are coming from a place, all of us are coming from a place of making sure that we're doing things right. So I just want the members to know that this is a healthy discussion, and we're all in agreement about one thing. We do need a policy. None of us are saying that we don't need a policy. What we're saying is we don't necessarily, the members don't necessarily want a use of force weapon, whether it be pepper spray, whether it be a gun, whether it be a taser gun. So this is more of a procedural thing for the board members. Enough commentary, I think we have had enough of that, but this is more procedural. You're right, there is a budget, and it was, the budget was approximately $140,000, but what that doesn't do, that's just a bottom line, that does not include, I thought that was for position, but, and it's not a question, I'm just making a comment right now. The fact of the matter is, we as a board have a responsibility to put the funds behind this. We have not approved a 2018 budget yet. So in my mind, if this is going to go forward, we cannot, if this ends up going with the yes vote, this cannot go forward until the final budget is in place. So that means no implementation of this policy until there's a budget to match it. No reorganization, no purchasing of taser guns, until we have a budget that matches this. One other thing. So I was searching through some minutes. Back in June of 2016, this item was another hot item. And just please bear with me, audience and board. Chairperson, Marty, how do you pronounce your last name?
DeVries.
DeVries. Gave the following report. The transparency of this board of directors is such that on May 20th and May 27th, all 9 members of the board met. Both of these dates were executive closed sessions. The outcome of those sessions resulted in 2 board votes. That determination, recommendation, and direction was to effective immediately, no firearms shall be carried of any Sandy Pines Wilderness Trail, security personnel, rangers, or by any Sandy Pines Wilderness Trails employee in the course of employment. That vote was a 6-3, 6 yes, 3 no. On that date, Gene was notified immediately to respond to this recommendation. The reason behind this recommendation was that we felt that missing Missing element was the lack of the board approval of firearm policy, which then could be operationalized by our park president. We felt this determination as in the best interest of our park president and staff and members of the board of directors. Until which time, Safety and Security Advisory Committee presents a well-defined firearms policy to include Sandy Pines employees to the board for consideration. This determination stands. Additionally, this is the important part. Additionally, when a policy and/or proposal is presented, that portion and only that portion would be put before the membership for a proposal vote, thus resulting in a new bylaw.
Right.
So, after we approve this, will this be going to a member vote for approval?
After those board meetings, Mike, I will make the comment that in talking with our Sandy Pines attorney, an employee policy is not housed in our Sandy Pines member handbook. They are two separate issues. So an employee policy that involves how it's managed becomes on the operational side, and we were incorrect in saying that it could be a rule or a bylaw because it is an employee policy. It's not a policy that would impact the direction of how a member operates and how we use this property and the conduct of members and guests.
This is a fundamental major issue with, this was shocking to me, that our bylaws are silent to us as a board not having the ability to approve policies. That's what boards are for. The fact that we're dissecting and making up what operational policy is versus administration policy versus rule, look at your handbook. The handbook is very clear. It says policies. We cannot make up terms. We cannot add that. We have to read it for black and white. And until those words get added to the handbook, a policy is a policy, whether it's operational or whether it's administration or whether it's a policy for the whole park. So I strongly urge that we put forth a ballot to update the bylaws, to give this board the policy, the power to have the ability to review these policies. This park is in dire need of policies. As Marty mentioned, there are very little policies in place, and there's going to be a lot of policies coming through, and we need checks and balances. This is nothing versus administration versus board. It's healthy. It's healthy to have your board have that oversight, to have that protection for administration.
Our current bylaws do provide the right to the board for oversight of the park president and the affairs of Sandy Pines. That is exactly why I wanted to put the resolution here tonight to approve the policy, because it is our responsibility to have oversight over this policy, specifically this policy and many of those to come. Any additional comments before we vote?
I just have one last comment, and it's just more for consistency. We need this. We do need this clarified because we cannot pick and choose which policies go forth to this board. I'm done. Thank you.
Any additional comments before the vote?
The only comment I have is the resolution that is being submitted today. It is no pistol, no firearms. The people that I have talked with, they really feel that the rangers with a taser or some type of defense, but they did not want a firearm. And that's exactly what this resolution is including. So I guess I'm confused when they talk about a firearm. This is no firearm, period. No ands, ifs, or buts.
When I talked about reviewing and reconsidering in 12 months, we could reconsider and review this for the next 12 to 15 years and never have a firearm in this park. It will be up to the board to review that and resolve or reconsider it in 12 months. That was based on a suggestion or an opinion from our attorney, not to wipe it out totally. If we are subjected to certain circumstances in the next 12 months here at Sandy Pines, we have to revisit that for the safety and protection of the members. It doesn't mean that it will ever happen. It may not happen in any of our lifetime here at Sandy Pines. Again, I bring the resolution that indicates, with the exception of firearms, that this would be reviewed. It doesn't mean that we're voting that anything is locked in. It just means that we need to take another look at it. Kathy, will you do a roll call vote on the resolution number 062317C?
I will, but I have to say, I was remiss on the last vote. I have Rob Kleins.
Okay.
I forgot that, but he was affirmative on that one.
On the site cleaning
This
resolution?
one, and I will make sure that I address that.
Okay, thank you.
Hoffman?
Yes.
King?
Yes.
Klein?
He's absent, but they're absentee ballot?
Yes. Nielsen? Yes. Pitcher?
Yes.
Wills?
No.
DeVries?
Yes.
Grinwis?
Yes.
Harding?
No.
7-2. The foregoing resolution was adopted by the Board of Directors on June 23, 2017.
You do consider that under the Firearms Act of 1968, a taser is considered a lethal weapon?
We are on to the new business for the board meeting, please. The discussion, excuse me, I will adjourn the meeting if we cannot gain control of the meeting. The discussion and review of a possible capital reserve ballot and the consideration of a resolution called 062317A. This resolution is to approve an annual election in August 2017 for a capital reserve fund assessment, where the Board of Directors of Sandy Pines proposes to place on that ballot for the membership of Sandy Pines Resort to decide by a vote on August 19, 2017, the following proposal for a capital reserve fund assessment. Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of Sandy Pines RV Resort does hereby approve the following motion as follows. This is the ballot language. The Board of Directors are asking for the membership to approve the following proposal. Ballot A. Shall the membership approve an annual capital reserve fund assessment of $200 per year for a period of 10 years? Resulting accumulated capital reserve fund assets shall be dedicated to capital expenditures as listed and reviewed annually on the 10-year capital budget estimate beginning in fiscal year 2017-18 for the purpose of making capital improvements to common areas in such a way as to maintain the use and the financial stability of this park. All funds collected shall be maintained in a separate account earmarked for capital expenditures and shall not be commingled with the general funds or any other funds. Amounts not expended for the projects above shall only be expended for capital projects approved by the board. And there will be a yes or a no on ballot A. Ballot B is pending the ballot A approval. Shall the membership approve an annual capital reserve fund assessment of $125 per year for a period of 10 years? Resulting accumulated capital reserve fund assets shall be dedicated to an indoor pool construction project and listed on the 10-year capital budget estimate beginning in fiscal year 2017-18, pending the passage of ballot A. All funds collected shall be maintained in a separate account with funds from an approved ballot A earmarked for capital expenditures and shall not be commingled with the general funds or any other funds. Amounts not expended for the projects indicated above shall only be expended for capital projects approved by the board. That will be a separate yes or no vote by the members. I make a motion to put resolution number 062317A on the table and look for a second. Carolyn, second. Any discussion?
The first part of this, the $200, none of those funds are, do I understand this correctly? None of those funds are going to be earmarked for anything, is that correct?
They're earmarked to capital reserve, not items, not.
Yes, that's that.
We vote every year on items.
Right. So, but with the swimming pool section, that would be money that's earmarked, meaning it can only be spent on the pool, correct? Now, in regards to the pool, my understanding is that there will not be an adult rec center or a restaurant section like we used to have to be built. This is going to be strictly a pool, is that correct?
You're the board member.
Well, that's my understanding. I was just seeing if you was on board. Have I got it right, or don't I?
Last year, we had the ballot proposal that included the indoor pool and an adult rec. With the building costs today, we can build the same square footage that we designated for last year for $125 a year, depending on building costs moving forward. If we dedicate the money to an indoor pool, we still have capital reserve dollars available in ballot A. So if a vote comes, if something comes to us next year or 2018 or 2019 on a capital budget for the board to approve, it could include monies that would begin the process of an adult rec if we so choose to approve that as a board. We haven't wiped that off the slate. We're just saying that these dollars right now are dedicated to an indoor pool project.
Okay, I guess what I'm getting at is the proposal last year was $325 for 10 years. That's basically what we're talking about here if both proposals passed. In that $325 last year, that did include, my understanding, the adult rec center and the food, I'll call it a food court. You could get pizza. So it's kind of like, what have we lost here? We're looking at the same bucks for the same amount of years, but we're losing a rec center and a food court. I don't get it.
We separated this ballot specifically to offer two options. One is the $200 capital reserve fund assessment for all the needs in the park. And that would include the roofs, the roads, the wells that bring water to our sites, that bring water to the CCs, boilers for the CCs. The biggest portion of our capital reserve are our roads in the park over the course of the next 10 years. It includes the structures that we use each and every day, the pools. It also includes in the $200 ballot A proposal an outdoor pool in phase 2 to relieve some of the pressure that we currently feel at the water park in the adult pool in the recreation station. We separated this for the second reason that there are members in the park that do not want, nor do they want to pay for an indoor pool. So we wanted it separated so we could gauge how many members want an indoor pool and are they willing to pay for it.
I appreciate the fact that this is just a ballot. All the board today is doing is putting this to you. This is one good thing about our governance structure that we have here in the park, that anything that has to do with financials, increasing your dues, increasing capital assessment, it's good to have it go to the board. There is a special circumstance that if the board feels that we're not able to have a healthy capital reserve fund, that we do have the ability to assess financial increase on your dues, but we're putting this forth for your vote, to hear what you want. So I like the fact that these are separated. I just want to comment on one thing. The ballot B, the reason why it's separate and it's dependent on A is this park cannot afford to take on any more liability, any more amendments without increasing our capital. And I think I'll just throw it out there. I voted down the last one last year. And I voted it down because there was a lot of stuff in there and I was misinformed and not educated enough on that part. So on this one, knowing the fact that the members, that we as a board have the ability to approve the annual budget, the capital expenditures every year, we don't, it's not a 10-year spending plan. This proposal here is actually build a reserve. Hopefully nothing happens and we don't have to come back to the members after 10 years, because if we have a healthy capital reserve, then we don't have to keep coming back to the members. So right now, this is just a proposal to give you the power to vote yes or no on this, and more information will be coming out over the summer.
Very good comments, Mike. Thank you. Tim?
I just wanted to speak a little bit, being the treasurer at this moment in time. So there was a ballot proposal last year, and there was a lot that was bundled into that ballot proposal last year, and I think the board tried to give a lot of detail on that. And the goal this year, as Marty said, was really to try to break it into a couple different categories. We hear this question over and over again of, exactly where the dollars are going. And I think people have to understand that, first of all, maintenance has had requests in the millions of dollars. I think last year was 1.8 million or somewhere in that neighborhood of necessary repairs around this park. And we have had to, unfortunately, continue to delay repairs year after year because of the way the bylaws and everything are written. This board has no ability to raise dues outside of cost of living without coming to the membership. So we're not coming to the membership asking for a dues increase. We're coming to the membership asking for specifically a capital fund here. So we're looking here at about $9 million in necessary repairs that need to be done over the next 10 years. And those are all based on our best estimates. There's been a lot of time, a lot of energy put into figuring out what those are. But every single year, the administration comes to the board and puts together a budget of how those funds are going to be spent. So right now, we're collecting $200 a year from the membership, and we're doing a fraction of those repairs that are necessary. As Marty stated, these are for very simple things like roofs, mechanical, structural, equipment. We really tried to make sure that there wasn't any fluff or any of those other requests that are in here. So that is the initial request for the $200, and then a separate request on the pool. Unfortunately, as we all know, construction costs and everything are going up at this point. Yes, it is probably more expensive if we're pulling quotes on building that indoor pool today than it was 12 months ago. And it's going to continue to go down that path. There's different options of what could be done on that indoor pool. Eventually, there could be additional buildings added or whatever as time goes on. But what's in front of the board right now is to do the simple indoor pool. So just wanted to kind of give some of that information, give it from, I think as more people talk about it, everyone hears it a little bit differently. So help give as much of that information as we can, so that if those two were to be together, then it's the $325 over the next 10 years.
Marty?
Thank you. I just want to respond to Doug's concern about where did the beef go, so to speak. There's no plan. Let me start there. There is no floor plan, no preconceived plan, but there was a survey done that the Long Range Planning Committee did, and it showed basically that the membership wants, when this is all said and done, they want to have the same thing they had. So that's still the goal, but again, like Tim said, costs are going up, but that also is, we're working with a number. We're working with a number, the engineering firm we're working with, and again, he hasn't drawn anything specific, but his experience in pricing in the current market says that we're going to be around $260 to $275 a square foot. So 10,000 square feet, how much of that square footage do you want to be pool? That's what will tell you how many other things you can have in that same building. Financially, it would make a lot of sense to have all pool, so that the next building we could apply for another FEMA grant. It's not hard to take 75% of the cost of a building and take that money and use it. And that's what we're doing in Phase 3. So we're doing a $2.2 million building project there. The board, as you heard earlier, dedicated from the reserves. We had about $4.5 million in reserves that we built up. They gave $1.1 million toward this project, and then the FEMA grant is for $856,000. That whole project is going to be paid for when the last brick gets put in place. Years ago, it would have been a 10-year assessment for $100 a site. This time, it's nothing. So just keep in mind that we are doing what we can to generate revenue, to keep costs low, to come up with extra cash, to do projects like this, to do projects like we want to do on the other shore again. But it's how that gets built, the pool, that's up to whoever gets on that committee. To me, it's only about numbers, and so it's like it's any other choice you make. You want a 20 by 20 pool in there, well, you'll be able to have a 8,000 square foot of adult rec center. You want to have a 6,000 square foot pool. You're going to have decks all the way around it and maybe a couple of storage rooms that we need, and that's going to be it. So it depends on what that thing gets drawn up like to know what we're actually going to get. But what the committee heard, what the long-range committee heard was they wanted an indoor pool, number one. So that's only my comment.
I comment real quick, Marty, very shortly. I got one. I think one of the things that concerns the members here is over the years, I think there's been a lack of trust. And they think that an administration or a board wasn't acting in their best interests. And they didn't trust them with the money. I think we've turned that corner. As far as the 200 goes, trust me, I'm not against that thing. I know things are broken in this park, and if anybody wants to get things fixed and maintain things, which increases the longevity of that stuff so you don't have to buy new sooner, I'm all for it. And as we all know, money isn't getting worth a whole lot more, and the costs are going up. And I think I'm not even going to address the pool right now. I'm going to talk about what we got to do to keep, when I ran, was to keep this park going at a level at least as what it is, and with not a bunch of growth, because every time you grow, you got more things you got to take care of. That's going to cost you more money. And I think maybe the folks here are interested in, if I vote for $200 for 10 years, are you going to be coming back to me for some more cash in a couple years? I don't know if, I kind of wonder that. Can we do it? I'm not going to say, are we going to do it? Or will we do it? I guess I'm asking, can we do it? Would it be a possibility? But we need to fix stuff now. And I've had conversations that prove that. So we do need that, but I don't want people here to think that maybe they don't have to vote on anything for the next 10 years, that we're going to be good to go. That's my only concern here.
Well, to kind of answer your question there, Doug, I was on long-range planning for 3 years, planning what went down last year. And it was a big disappointment because we worked really hard on that. And it's very true, if you're worried about, the two things being separated now, construction's gone up. If you built a house last year, you're not going to build it for that same dollar this year. That's just how it is. And as far as saying, are you going to come back to me for more money, that's the reason long-range planning put that in place last year. It got defeated, but no, we're not going to come back to you again. That's the reason we need that capital revenue right there. So to answer that, no, we won't come back. That's right.
Right.
I just needed confirmation.
The idea of a reserve is that you always have income that will continue to grow to fulfill all of the needs, repairs and replaces in the park. The whole entire plan was front-loaded. If you think about re-roofing a CC in Phase 1, we replaced the tile in Phase 1, the CCs in Phase 1, 2, and 4. It's not going to be next year that we need to put a new roof and tile in all of those CCs. We would hope that they would last another 40 years, like the tile and the roofs, not the roofs, they haven't lasted, but the tile in the CCs have been here for years. So we're not going to, it's not like we're going to continue to have to replace the same things that we did in the onset of the plan. What we want to do is build a reserve, which we have never, ever had in this park. Shame on us for not doing it, but we need monies to continue with the amenities and keep this park the way, like Doug said, the way that we have to have the park operate and look for the benefit of the members, that you find value in being part of this community. If we don't do anything about capital reserve, then we have no alternatives than to close buildings that are unsafe, that if we can't keep CCs functioning, if we don't have water to our sites and the wells go down, if we don't have monies to put in new wells, guess what? You don't have water to the street, to the post, you don't hook up to water, and you don't have any water inside of your park models. The same thing happens with boilers in all of our CCs that heat the waters for the showers. We have maintenance on buildings, we have maintenance on the pools, we have maintenance on the grounds. We have a dam out here protecting the water from leaking from our lake. All of those things cost money. It's not coming from dues, it's called capital. There are two separate silos in the business called Sandy Pines. Any additional comments before we vote on placing this on the ballot in August for member approval? Kathy, roll call vote, please.
Hoffman? Yes. King? Yes. Klein? Is a yes. Nielsen? Yes. Pitcher?
Yes.
Wills? Yes. DeVries?
Yes.
Grinwis? Yes. Harding?
Yes.
The roll call vote is 8-9-0. So it will be placed on the ballot for member vote in August. The next thing on the agenda is just a reminder for the face-to-face meeting tomorrow morning in this building from 9 to 11. And just an FYI for the board and the members that we have been invited as a board to a strategic planning workshop on July 7, and all the board members are planning to attend. We will move on to member comments. We have a comment here from Barry Wilkins from site K212. Is the direction of Sandy Pines to become a retirement park, or will it remain a family park? It is definitely going to remain a family park, and I can tell you that we just saw statistics. I don't have those with me tonight, but Jean, can you talk to those?
The three-year average is 21.6% are retired, and the balance are working families. So largely, the majority of those.
Three-year average, 21.6% are active working families. No, retirees, and the remainder are active working families. I'm an active working retiree, so sorry to confuse that. Does that answer your question? Next question or comment is from Amy Wall, site N412? Is it N412? How much did it cost to demolish the indoor pool and adult rec center? Kimberly, can you answer that question? Sorry to put you on the spot. Or Jean? $80,000 approximately?
Yeah, there were costs, the capital expenditure, and Jean, if you can help me on that, but there were capital assets that we were surprised were still needed to be depreciated. But some of those assets that needed to be depreciated were also assets that need to be replaced because of the damage that was done to them. And that was lost to our assets on the September financial statements, which you can actually see on the website, the September year-to-date financial statements. So you will see a loss on sale of assets, which is largely contributed to that. And then also the demolition of the building was actually an operational cost. The demo to that building was actually done after the season, so that is a high part of the over expenditure, and I have that right here. It's about $80,000 was the cost to demo that building in this year. So, so outside of that, but then along with that building came expenses that were incurred month after month, and those we are not facing this year. So just to operate that building, because that was not a revenue generating building, it was an expense generating building. So there is an offset in that way a little bit that we are seeing this year.
Thank you, Kimberly. Izzy Ailey, Site N310. The topic of the question is the indoor pool. A suggestion that the pool and the activities room be in separated buildings. And I believe that that is one of the options that we are looking at as we build an indoor pool and the design is up before us and we vote. It may potentially be built in phases to include adult rec and whatever the board approves at that time on the capital side. This is from Joe Carr, Site 272. Number one, when did last year's Ranger vote become advisory and not a yes or no vote? We never changed it. We put the vote out there to allow the members to have a say about that policy being developed. We wanted an opinion from members if they wanted to be involved in the powers to enact a policy or implement a policy. It was not specifically around a question that said, do you want guns in the park or not, or we would have exactly said it that way. Number two, do you think the rollout of site inspections damaged the intent of the park for improvement? The rollout of site inspections damaged the intent of the park for improvement. I think the numbers today spoke for themselves that with 4 sites or 4 phases totally inspected and only 10 violations, I think it speaks for itself that the members did an awesome job cleaning up their sites. We felt that the checklist helped. It definitely needs tweaking. We all realize that. But we had to start somewhere with the intent of giving people an opportunity to look at a checklist instead of an inspector just randomly selecting items or things to be inspected and violated. Jeff Festian, Site 394. Are rangers or employees carrying or permitted to use any type of self-defense items, firearms, tasers, baton, pepper spray, etc.? At this time, they are not. Randy Bauman, Site N172. Dog safety in regards to people running them alongside carts. I think that might be something that we allow rules to take a look at. We'll pass that along via email to you, Doug, so we can maybe have somebody. Randy, are you specifically talking about someone that has the dog on a leash? The person's driving the, okay.
I see that a lot.
Okay.
You know, I've almost seen a dog because it was on a short leash, almost get run over by the cart.
Okay.
I mean, you got a dog park for these dogs to be exercised, and I think these people, I'm sure it's probably against the rule, but I've never seen anything that shows that, hey, this is not
Right.
allowed.
Okay. Thanks for the suggestion, and we'll pass it to the Rules Committee. Randy Bauman, also, Site N172, close and dear to my heart are pickleball courts. Do you have a specific question, or?
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like they always get bypassed. I mean, the basketball courts just got redone, and the shuffleboard, and I'm all for that. That's why I'm for the capital
Okay.
reserve fund. But if the board can't do anything, can we, as the people that play, can we make improvements to it? Like there could be room for a third court in between those courts there.
I'll tell you that the pickleball courts are a line item on the capital reserve. So are a number of the other courts, including shuffleboard. And the pickleball courts, in my mind, need to be faced a different direction. And there is space, and it will depend on the dollars that come in from capital.
But in the meantime, could we, as a group that play, put a third court in there? Would you put takedown, or would you not allow that? Or?
It's designated as a basketball court right now, and we
I'd
can.
like to see those hooks taken down too.
We can.
They move the nets, and then we got to refigure it every time. The basketball court's right next to it.
Maybe we discuss that further with maintenance and Jean to see if there's opportunities before the August ballot, so thank you. I appreciate everybody coming tonight. That's all of the member input at this point, and our next board meeting is July 21st. And have a safe weekend, and remember the face-to-face tomorrow morning. Thank you.